Welcome to the Billionaire Lifestyle Podcast with your host, Emmett Muckles. Please visit iTunes, Stitcher, or emmettmuckles.com to listen to all the episodes for free.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Billionaire Lifestyle Podcast. Today, my guest is Ria Qureshi-Davidson. That's A-R-Q-D. She's an award-winning entrepreneur, certified professional coach, yoga, and meditation teacher. Using an innovative approach that combines the art and science of modern coaching and the ancient yoga teachings, April helps busy professionals disrupt their thoughts that can cause stress and rewire the brain for a life mastery and the steps of three in 3 steps. What's up, girlfriend?
What's up? I'm happy to be here.
Good.
I'm so glad I found you.
I'm not hard to find.
Yeah, thank you.
You know, there's not a lot of Emmett Muckles in the world. There was 3 at one time. One just he was like, I'm sick of this planet. I'm going off to my next time. I was like, deuces, old dude. And so there's 2 left. But they're different. So, first of all, make sure you go to her Instagram. She has the best Instagram in the world. I mean, I just sat and looked at her Instagram and just stared at her beautiful face and was just like, she's my people.
Thank you. You're so generous and kind.
Yeah, but you know what? I'm going to get into that. It's not good for men to be generous and kind.
Oh?
Yeah.
Tell me more.
Because if we're generous and kind, we could be thought of as creepy.
Oh.
You didn't think
That's
of
a
it.
Possibility.
Yeah, that's a weird thing. I was talking with someone about how American can eat as young and men.
Yeah, but you know what? I think it's the way people receive it, right?
It is all perception. And I literally thought this. We're going off on a tangent because this is how we do on the Billionaire Lifestyle. We just kick it.
Yep. I like it.
I thought, and this has been a reoccurring thought, somewhere between 2000 and 2011, we went through a strange energy paradigm shift where we were on this path and it was predictable and we knew what was what and this is that. And somehow there was like a little quantum jump or a Godsmack of reality. And we went off on a different tangent because you couldn't, if you'd have told me in 1999 where we would be today, I'd be like, you're high as all get out. But anything is possible in the omniverse. Mm-hmm. And we are seeing it right now. Well, you're in Canada and yep. I'm in the U.S. So you get to see it from afar and you just go, See, I'm right. You guys are probably just going, wow.
Yeah, I don't know what to say because, yeah. I mean, I love the States. I love my American friends. And I think once you drill down and get to the people and get beyond all the stuff that goes on and all the politicking, which dominates the media.
Yeah.
It's really about the people. And you know what? You guys are nice people.
We are nice people, you know, and there's one other thing that I am so glad I'm seeing. I'm not a partaker, but I am so glad that marijuana is becoming legal. And I'm going to tell everybody why. Because I've known people who like alcohol. And a lot of times really nice people turn into really bad assholes when they drink. Versus I've known many people who partake in the weed stuff. And they generally get better. They just like, hey, life is life. Let's just hang out. Pass me the Funyuns. Let's watch some TV. Start a fire and just sit around and just look at the stars. Because if you're an a-hole when you're high off marijuana, you're just an a-hole. And everyone knows it.
You're funny. Oh my goodness.
It's true though. But
Yeah, we're pretty mellow up here in Canada. We're pretty laid back, relaxed, and yeah.
I know I used to live in Detroit. I'm from Detroit
Oh, okay.
originally. So like one of my early girlfriends was Canadian. Gosh, she was hot.
Oh yeah.
Oh my goodness.
She must have been from Toronto.
No. Oh, but there, that's like the stew of earth where everything coalesces and comes out beautiful and bronzing and tall and short. And it's just awesome. Let's get back to you because you and I will just sit here and just talk all night. So,
Okay.
let's go back
Tell
to
me about me.
Yeah, I want you to tell me about you. Doggone it. You to tell me about you. So let's go back. So
Okay.
how does one get into meditation? Because in this culture, it began in the 60s to make its prominence with the culture, the counterculture then. And it kind of faded in the 70s. And so in the last, like, I'd say 25 years, it started to make its inroads and its popularity started to grow. How did you come to bringing meditation as a part of your life?
Yeah, so I started meditating when I took up the Japanese martial art of Aikido.
Ah,
Yeah.
using that momentum.
Yeah. And every class at the beginning, at the end, we would sit in meditation for not very long, just a minute, maybe 5 minutes. And that's where it started. And so in that just those brief moments, when you, and actually the whole atmosphere of we call the training space a dojo, a Japanese term for the place where you train, that whole space, as soon as you walk in, there's a bit of an atmosphere to it, no matter where you are, whether it's a community center or a private space or whatever, but there's an atmosphere to it that brings you into this quiet meditative space. Mm-hmm. So when you walk in, you're already in meditation. So that's where it started for me. But here's the thing. What I realized is that I was just thinking about this probably about a month ago, and I used to meditate as a kid, and like, I didn't know I was meditating, but I've been thinking about it, and I'm like, okay, yeah. So what is it with this meditation? Because what I want to do, Emmett, is I want to bring it down off the mountain, out of the temples, down off the mountain, out of the caves, and bring it to the people, because everybody has the ability to meditate. It's within us. Like it's not difficult once you have the tools and the techniques and someone to guide you along the way. But so I was thinking, like, what's going on? What's the difference? Like, how does this come to the people? And I know when I was a kid, struggling with my parents, fighting and arguing all the time, and they know I talk about this, so I can talk about it. But what's a 7-year-old supposed to do when your parents are arguing and fighting? And it's just like I went to my room and I turned inward, basically, and I let the distractions of the outside world go, and I focused inward, and I lived in my own little world, as many kids do.
Yeah.
And we call it make believe and this kind of thing, but it's actually, I was thinking about it, and it's an inward focus. It can be a meditative state where time just disappears. You feel connected to yourself, in your own little world. But then, like, as a child, we don't recognize it, but there's this like completeness to the whole thing of it, right? So it connects us. And so I think, for me personally, on a conscious level, I've been meditating since the early 90s.
So how did you bring that into your adult life? Because, you go through this thing when you're a kid, and then for men, it's this drug that takes over, and it's testosterone. And for you guys, you get flooded with this thing of estrogen, and you go through this tremendous physical change, and your thought process starts to go awry as well. Because I remember what my imagination was like as a child, and it's like, and it reminds me of the garden, what the Garden of Eden was, and you can never get back there.
Yeah. What do you mean you can never get back? Tell me like a little bit more about what you mean by that.
My G.I. Joes were real to me. Mm-hmm. Now they're dolls.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Or this block was something, had gravity and it had space and it could be something else, and I felt it. Now it's a block that I can do geometry with. Mm-hmm. See what I'm saying? It's just you lose the magic when those chemicals kick in and your brain starts to change and your body starts to change. And then by the age of 25, is it the hippocampus? No.
The prefrontal cortex.
Cortex. Yeah. When it hits its complete cycle, by that time your insurance rates drop. You're like, oh.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that, right? Like we let that creativity go, right? We let that playfulness go. And we suppress it and we press it down and we push it aside, and it's like, no, we can't do that anymore. We're adults now. But the idea of meditation is that, we tap into that. Like when you're a kid, you're your true essence, right? You're that pure spirit, right? And so meditation is the idea of getting back to that, right? Removing all the coverings, all the layering of, like your family history and, your conditioning and, what your community puts onto you, removing all that. So that's that true nature that flows through our whole life. So, getting back to that, right? How can we get back to that true nature that is our essence, that is our purity, right? That you see behind people's eyes, when they have their persona, their ego mask on.
Oh yeah.
Kind of like we have that on right now, right?
No.
And
nope, not on this show. I don't.
And we see beyond that, right? Like we see beyond all that.
Yeah.
We see the true person, right? And we recognize that we're all connected. And I think you said that earlier in our conversation.
Yeah, we are. I understand this. I understand we come out of the same material. It's literally the same stuff, same what we call carbon and we call hydrogen and all that stuff, right? But what's the difference? Because when you go to a funeral, that person's not there anymore. Mm-hmm. They are gone. They're like, hey, I left the iron on at my other place. Gotta go. Bye. And they're gone. And we miss them, right? But we struggle because that's really one of the reasons I started the Billionaire Lifestyle, is to help people connect. Like somebody might hear something that you're doing and go, I was thinking about that. So it is available. And it could be anything because, there are no two people who are exactly alike. That's a miracle within itself. But we are so fundamentally alike and not alike at the same time. It's like quantum theory. It's just like, wow. But how can we as adults put this practice in our brain so that we can begin to meditate, so that we overstand what we're expecting?
Yeah. So what we want to do to meditate, it's really actually simple. You just come into a comfortable seated position and you begin to breathe and you begin to notice your breath. And just that in itself can be enough, because when we're out of what the breath does is it brings us into the present moment. And life only happens in the present moment.
Say it again.
Life only happens in the present moment.
Booyah.
Yeah.
I've been saying that for the last couple of shows to people.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Cool. See, we're in alignment. Yeah. And so we come at life from our pre-programmed past. And so we have these like colored glasses on that filter how we see the world. And most of us in our daily interactions are living life through our past because it's safe, it's comfortable, and it's pretty much the only thing that we know, because we don't know what the future is going to hold. And we can live in the future, we can speculate, we can daydream about it, but we don't actually know what's going to happen.
Yeah, that's true.
And so there's nothing we can do about the past, and there's nothing we can do about the future. So the only opportunity we have is right now in the present moment. And when we breathe, we bring ourselves into the present moment.
So give me an example of the breathing timing, because, you know, many people, they try to describe it, but a lot of times it's best if you go with the timing, because I actually freak my wife out. Freak her out. I'll go, watch me drop my heart rate. She's like, get out of here. I go, put the cuff on me. And I start breathing. And she's like, and she watches it plummet. My heart rate just goes, it'll go from like, you know, you're walking around, you're probably like 90 or 105 beats. And it goes down to like, in no time, in like less than 30 seconds, like down to like 65 beats a minute. And she goes, stop, you're going to stop your heart. I'm like, nah, I could never do that. It's too, no. But it took me some time to figure out the breathing technique. And one of those for me was understanding Buddha. Because we always see Buddha as a fat guy. But then someone explained something to me that made so much sense. They were like, Buddha wasn't necessarily fat. He was breathing like a baby, which means he was filling his entire lungs. And your lungs go from like under your armpit, somewhere around there, all the way down to almost your hips, or probably at your hips. So filling that whole space up fills your entire lung. And I was like, once I started doing that, I was able to put myself to sleep. I was able to calm down. I was able to get out that ticket when the police officer pulled me over. You know, America.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah. So basically, most of us breathe only like 1/3 of our lung capacity. And when we breathe deeply, so that's what your friend or whoever was telling you, is that the Buddha is doing his belly breathing. And so when we fill the lungs completely, we breathe all the way down to the bottom, filling from the bottom to the top, our belly expands. And so if you watch a baby while they're sleeping, you'll see their belly expanding and contracting naturally with their breath. And so this is a really simple practice that we can do for ourselves. And it's breathing deeply into the bottom of the lungs, and then filling the lungs from the bottom to the top, all the way up to the collarbones. And then noticing the belly expand, because the diaphragm is pressing down, expanding the abdomen. And then when we exhale emptying the lungs as if pouring water out of a bottle. And so we exhale top to bottom. And in that, the belly naturally contracts. And in this way, you engage the body in a whole complete breath. And this is what the body loves, right? And so most of our day, we're rushing around, we're working, we're dealing with people, traffic, groceries, kids, clients, people at work, whatever you're doing, right? And so we're in this constant state of action, and we're actually in our sympathetic nervous system. And so what breathing does is brings us, the nervous system is made of two parts: the sympathetic, which is the action-oriented part, and then the parasympathetic, which is the rest and digest part of the system. And so when we breathe deeply, we engage in that rest and digest. And so that's how your heart rate begins to drop. And your heart rate drops, your blood pressure stabilizes, you get oxygen into the brain and the heart through the blood, and you begin to release this natural pharmacy of chemicals, this positive pharmacy of chemicals from the brain into the body, So oxytocin, serotonin, melatonin, and all those things that we need. You mentioned sleep, so melatonin. So all of this engages the body in a rest and digest state. So instead of being in fight or flight, when we're busy in traffic and someone cuts us off and we're like, like this, it's like a mini, we go into a mini reaction, right? And so our days can be quite heightened in our nervous system.
Yeah.
And over time, that's how people become really stressed out, and it's chronic, right? It becomes chronic. And so just the simple belly breathing brings us into that parasympathetic nervous system where we can rest and digest. And so we can actually digest all those experiences that we've had throughout the day so that we can sleep well and we can get the rest that we need. And so it's a very beautiful thing. It's very simple. And you mentioned counting. And I recommend for people who are just starting out, don't worry about counting. You can do the counting later. And then when you count, eventually you're going to forget about that anyway. It's not going to become important. But so what you want to do is you just want to breathe deeply into the belly and, maybe just place your hand there and just notice the lungs filling completely. And you want to do this as much as you can without struggle or strain, and then just let it flow. And it takes practice. Like, it's kind of odd. Yeah, because our nervous system actually breathes for us, right? Like, we don't have to think about it, right? Like, our heart beats and we breathe without us thinking about it. But when we voluntarily put our attention onto our breath, we can literally change our emotional, our physical, and our mental state. And so it takes practice, though, people. So, like, don't get discouraged. Just keep doing it. And I recommend you do it, if you can, twice a day for 3 minutes. That's all I'm suggesting. That's all I'm putting out there, is that you do it for at least 3 minutes and just see what happens. Just notice what happens. And
so what are some of the things that daily meditation practice what are some of the things that they could possibly notice from daily meditation practice?
Yeah, I mean, just from 3 minutes a day, you'll begin to notice that the body begins to relax. The mind begins to empty. And so, I don't know if your listeners know, but there's about 30,000 to 50,000 thoughts in a day.
At least.
So that's a lot.
At least.
So it's about one thought every 1.6 seconds. So it's a lot of thoughts. So with meditation, when you focus on the breath, I'm going to suggest to you to notice where your thoughts are. And when you're focused on the breath, do you even notice your thoughts? And with practice, you'll begin to notice that your distraction from the thoughts, they just kind of begin to take a back seat, basically. So your body will relax. You notice your shoulders will drop. Your chest will relax. Your abdomen will move freely. Your lower back will release. Your mind will free up, and your nervous system will come into balance. And just that alone is going to make an impact. So, and you'll also notice that your emotions too, like if you're in a stressful situation, there's that saying out there, just take a deep breath, take 10 deep breaths and then choose, right? And so when you breathe, you give yourself a chance to come out of that stressful situation and become aware. And I call this the ABCs of mindfulness. So the first is A, become aware. So just when you're in a stressful situation, whether it's with your kids, your partner, at work, on the road, whatever, just become aware. Like, oh my gosh, I'm in stress right now. And that's the first thing. And so people kind of, what I recognize is that people kind of go, oh no, like I'm stressed, right? And so they get stressed about the recognition of being stressed, right? Because we're stressed, we're just in it and we don't realize it, right? We kind of subconsciously, we know we're stressed out, but we don't recognize it and actually acknowledge it. So that's the first thing.
What's funny about that? I was trying to explain this to my wife because she's she and I come from very different situations. She's like, why are you always so uptight?
You say to her?
No, she says that to me.
Oh.
She's like, why are you always kind of anxious? I was like, I'm like, my dear, I am a man of color in America. I am always under assault. Always under assault. She was like, but everybody loves you. I was like, yeah. I was like, but it's a programming. It is literally a programming. And she was like, I just don't understand. And then we were talking about high blood pressure. She was like, we were talking with your family. Everybody seems to have high blood pressure. I was like, I told you there's a lot of stress. I'm like, there's a stress that some people don't even, can't know it unless you experience it. But this has helped me a great deal. Like, I've been on the blood pressure machine and started to control what it is. But then there's autonomy to it when you get back into the world, if you're not really conscious of it at all times. So, I do understand exactly what you're saying. So we got to the A part. Mm-hmm. So you got to be aware of things, right? Mm-hmm. What's the B part?
B is breathe. And we talked about that. So you just take a few breaths. And then, because I've already talked about that, we'll go on to C, which is you get to choose now from this place where you've taken yourself out of fight or flight. You've taken yourself out of that lizard brain that's like 500 million years old and only has one job, which is to keep us safe. It takes us out of our lizard brain and brings us into our alpha brain waves, which is a state of creativity. It's a state of openness, and it's a state of possibilities. And so when we make that shift, we are able to choose differently than we were going to choose in reaction a few moments ago. And so I don't know if if anybody has kids, we know we're going to just like react, right? Whatever they say, we're just going to react, and we don't think, right? And so this A, become aware, B, breathe, and C, choose. So we can choose differently than that reaction a few moments ago. And now we can choose to respond with intelligence and maybe with some inspiration that will support the situation and help it come to.
I'm not laughing at you. I'm thinking about my kids. So my kids range from 10 to 35.
Okay.
And so I've seen generations of how people are, right? And this latest generation, I'm like, how did you come to that conclusion? They're like, Daddy, why are you breathing so much? I have to get through this moment, my dear. Because that made no sense to me.
Totally, right?
Yeah.
They have so much information, these kids these days. And
they do.
Being able to discern between what's real and what's not, right? And, it takes time, it takes effort, it takes energy as parents and as children to discern. And so this is part of being mindful, right? Like mindfully choosing what you're going to put your attention on, right? Like, am I going to choose to put my attention on all this stuff, all this, we can call it crap, or am I going to choose to put my attention on something that's actually going to serve me? And so kids these days, they love to, we used to watch TV or whatever, but now there's these little phones, these little devices that are supercomputers.
Oh yeah, love it.
And there's very little discernment there, right? So, where are we choosing to put our attention?
Yeah, the world is at the palm of your hand. It is literally. I thought about this, a couple years ago. I'm getting a 40-inch screen TV. I'm getting a 50. I'm getting a 60-inch. Now it's like I'm getting a 13. I'm getting a 9.7. And that's where all my attention is going to be, is this itty-bitty screen that can literally be our best friend. It can be our mentor. So all I have to do is say, hey, Google, what's the capital of Botswana? As a matter of fact, Google just went off when I did that. Sorry. And, it's there. If you want to find out, I don't feel well, you ask some device something and it can point you in a serious direction. So I do understand that. But I have a question for you. What about driving? Is there a meditation practice you could do? Because we spend so much time in our vehicles in this modern society, and it can be one of the most stressful times on the planet.
Yeah, so you want to be careful about driving. You actually don't want to put yourself into a meditative state, but you can become mindful, right? And so you can become aware of what's going on around you. You can become aware of your reaction to people cutting you off, or I don't know, that blonde woman in the blue car over there that just passed by, who reminds me of the girl who dumped me in high school or whatever, right? So, like there's reactions going on all around us when we're driving, right? There's billboard signs, there's places where I've always wanted to go there.
And we take it all in too.
We take it all in, right? And so being able to just recognize that you're in traffic, first of all, and that you have this commute and you've done it before, right? And so, hey, here's a question for you.
For me?
Yeah. So have you ever driven from somewhere to home, like somewhere where you go a lot? So I'm guessing you work at home, but maybe at one time, you take a drive.
I drive a lot. I drive about 800 miles a week.
So there you go. So have you ever been in a situation where you're driving home and you get home and then you're just like, oh, I don't know how I got here, but I know I got here. Like somehow I drove the car, but I don't remember actually driving. But you still got home safely. Have you ever had that?
No, I've had segments like that.
Yeah,
but I know, but I'm used to that. I'm used to going off into the ether while the body's on autopilot and snaps me back in. But I'm a deep, 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 deep thinker. My dad said that to me. He's like, you go some places, dude. I was like, yeah, I do. And usually it's those moments that I don't recognize what's past me, and that's because I'm in a flow of energy, a flow of thought, which means I'm close to one somewhere, everything's just popping on, everything's just working. And then because time becomes irrelevant.
Yeah.
You got me off on a tangent. How?
Well, we have to be careful when we're driving, right? Because we can go off. We're not really aware of what we're actually doing because we're on this autopilot because we've driven that way so many times day after day, right? And so that's the opposite of being mindful. So being mindful is like feeling the actual wheel beneath your hands, right? And feeling the gear shift and feeling the bottoms of your feet and recognizing the temperature of the room and taking it all in and just being aware and recognizing what your thoughts are, your feelings and your reactions to everything that's going on around you.
You brought something else up. Since we're talking about cars and we're talking about being mindful, you're a yoga practitioner as well. So help Emmett with this sciatica in his right butt cheek.
Figure four. Excuse me. Yeah.
I'm.
Do you know that one?
I have to explain something to you first. So I come from this genetic line of sinewy, muscular people that were made from rock. You understand that?
I think you got some water in there somewhere. I'm sure of it.
Yeah, I put it like this. Did you ever see the Guardians of the Galaxy?
I think so.
You remember?
Was that when everybody blew up at the end?
No. This is the one with the guy that's the tree and the raccoon.
Oh, I get so mixed up. I know my kids will tell you that I've seen it.
Anyway, I'm from the guy, probably the family that was the tree.
Okay.
I'm stiff. And but I found out when I was practicing yoga daily, I mean, literally every day, life moved a lot better. but it's hard to practice. And I would have to do it 30 minutes every day. When I did 30 minutes every day, I saw improvements, little bitty improvements. But the noticeable thing is I'm a trainer, so I stand on my feet for sometimes 9 hours a day. And I would get through and I'm like, hey, it doesn't feel like I've been beat up.
Because you were doing yoga.
Because I was doing yoga, but it takes, you have to really put it in. So,
well, and that's the thing, right? We want results, right? But we don't want to do the work.
I like to do the work, but you know what? And the problem was I had to find a mechanism for me to do it by myself as a man. And the reason for that is I went to a yoga class, and most yoga classes fill with women. So dudes, if you really want to be around women, go to a yoga class. Got my universal pants on, and I was like my universal stretchy pants, and I was in there. Anyway,
that's funny.
They say, do what you can. I'm a guy. Guys don't know how to do what they can't, only what they can. Remember that testosterone thing? We're going to try and do what everybody else is doing or better. It's just ingrained. Can't relax. And I was having problems with it. Only when I came home and I said, I'm not going to look at the television as this thing is going on. I'm just going to listen. So that way I'm not trying to do exactly what they did. And over time, I progress. But what would be the benefits of meditation and yoga in your estimation?
Well, the way I teach is a meditative flow. And so we actually teach with the end result. We bring the end, what we want in the end, we bring it into the beginning. And so it's kind of cool what you said. So I know this might be kind of different, but we start with meditation, first of all, always in my practice. And so already we're in a meditative state. We're out of that need to, so what you were saying is like, you want to be better. It's that drive to, again, in that lizard brain that wants us to succeed. It wants us to, catch the tiger and haul it home for dinner. Right. Yeah. And so we don't have those opportunities so much anymore. We do it with sports and, other ways, but we don't have those opportunities. And so people bring that into yoga, which is, it's really not the purpose because, so where am I going with this? Where am I going? So we come into a meditative state to begin with. And so we set all that desire aside. We set the ego mind aside. We've shifted out of the ego, which wants us to do something. So we go from doing into non-doing. And so we call it actionless action. And so when we're in a meditative state, we go beyond the mind, we tap into the energy body. And from there, so there's two minds. So there's the lower mind and the higher mind. So the ego mind and the wisdom. So we set the ego mind aside. And when you're in a meditative state, you're enabling the wisdom to arise.
That's what Eckhart Tolle was bringing forth a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
That really opened me up. But just don't get his audiobook because he reads it. Don't.
Yeah. And so when we come from that meditative state in yoga, and we move from the wisdom of the body rather than from the ego mind who wants to perform and do something, we allow our internal awareness to guide our actions. And so we come, like a lot of people in my class, you don't have to even have your eyes open. Like a lot of people just have their eyes closed the whole time. And it's very calming. It's very relaxing. And you just allow the body to move based on how you're feeling inside. And so you're so tapped in right from the beginning. So the relaxation doesn't come at the end. It comes right at the beginning and you move from there. And so right away, all of that is put to the side. And we work the edge. We call it the edge of tension and relaxation. Mm-hmm. So we come into a position where we're on our edge and if you go past your edge, you're putting yourself into a stress situation. And when you do that, you're not in yoga. And so what a lot of people do, as you were explaining, is that they put themselves past that edge through their ego mind because they think that they need to do something. But we back out of that and we just ride the edge. We're on the edge of that tension. So we're just stretching a little bit, but we're able to breathe. We're able to still relax into the posture. We're able to drop our shoulders. We're able to open through the sternum. We're able to relax the hips. And from there, this is like the non-doing, actionless action where it's all prompted from prana within. And so we're not listening to the ego who says, do it this way and do it perfect. We're just allowing the body to talk to us and tell us what we need to do in that moment. So that's how you do it.
So if people want more information, how do they find you? I know you have a bunch of links that I will put in the show notes because on LinkedIn, Instagram, and on Instagram, I'm going to have to question you about this one.
I know I got to update. You know what? I looked at the links that I sent you and we have to update those. So
the Women's Entrepreneur Lifestyle Club.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
It's a place for women entrepreneurs who want to just connect. And for me, everything is about lifestyle. Yeah. So if you're a business person and you're working like crazy and you're stressed out and you don't have time, what people tell me is they don't have time. And so we take the whole picture of what you're doing in your life, and we don't just look at the business. So we look at the whole lifestyle. And so how is that all supporting each other so that you have a complete lifestyle that actually serves you? And so it's not just about business. Yeah. And because the way we do one thing is the way we do everything. And so whatever you're doing in business, you're also doing that in life. So just here's another little thing that you can do at home is just become aware of how you're speaking in your relationships, in your business life, and then in your family life, and just notice.
I did that. I got godsmacked a couple of months ago because there's this reoccurring theme in my life because I literally love people. I'm like that happy kid, the one just like, hi, let's play with some blocks. But that is not necessarily cool nowadays, because you might invade someone's space and that can be construed as a very negative thing, which is funny because I'm always battling it because people will say, Emmett, why are you so quiet today? And it's like I'm not trying to get in anyone's space because you never know what perception state someone is in. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, come on. It's I'm on the edge.
How can you be you in every situation? How can you just be you and be okay with other people's reactions? Because you can't control other people's reactions, Emmett, right? Like we think that we can. We think that by not being ourselves, we can control other people's reactions, but it doesn't work that way.
I would say that, but it can be literally detrimental. I mean,
it can.
No, I've seen it like escalate toward that. It can be literally detrimental. And I saw some evidence, and I don't mean to get it. This is just a perspective that a lot of people don't get to see because of the conditioning of our society and we're seeing it because you and I were talking about it earlier before we really start getting into the podcast. And I'm a hippie. I am a like crystal wearing, meditating, yoga, like nature loving, I love the universe kind of guy. But I know where I live in this fine land of the United States. And I realize that sometimes I'm around children of a lesser God. Mm-hmm. And that lesser God is insecure, mm-hmm. selfish, afraid, and it's just like it can kill the thing that's nice to you.
Yeah. And so people think that we're separate, right? But we're not. We're all connected. And so in those times, we are aware. We're aware that we are aware, and we're aware that they're not aware. And so just in that is enough right there. Being aware that I'm aware, that you're aware, and that the people that we're dealing with at the time, they're not aware, and it's okay.
You just confused some people, you know that, right?
I'm sure I did. And so ignorance plays into this. And I don't mean ignorance in the way that society says, oh, you're ignorant. I just mean it's a lack of knowledge, right? Yeah. Like we're lacking in this knowledge of this universal energy, this universal love, this unconditional love, right? And so just be aware that they're not aware, and that's it, right? And so you're reacting to their reaction to you, and so meditation is about like just stepping back from that and just witnessing it all without attachment, right? So they become attached to you because you said something that maybe upset them. And then, so they're reacting, and then you react to that because you're feeling like, oh gosh, I said something, I upset them, whatever it is. And so everybody's in reaction. But because you and I are aware, we can literally step back, lean back, and just observe the whole thing as it is for what it is, and just accept it for what it is. And recognize that we are not that reaction to everybody. That's not our true selves. That's our persona. That's our ego minds going at each other. It's not our true selves. So we're aware that behind all that reaction in that interaction is there's two people who are connecting, and they want to connect maybe more deeply. They just don't know how to do it. Like, we're not taught this stuff, right? Like,
no,
nobody teaches this in school.
We're not. And we're taught competition. We are literally taught competition.
And it becomes a threat. Everybody's threatened.
Yeah. Just all I have to do. I literally turned off my cable, turned it off. The only thing that I consume is that which I choose. For that reason. So there's a lot of, and then I realized something. All these things were happening, didn't affect me one bit.
Yeah, you just let all that go, and nothing, like, life still goes on. You still. Yeah,
people are like, hey, did you hear about so-and-so? I'm like, no. And I kept it pushing.
Well, and that allows you and us and whoever to focus on what's really important, right? And so in that meditative state, all that bullshit starts to just drop away. We disconnect from all that crap. And then the wisdom shows up, and it's like, you know what? I really need to be with my kids right now. Or, you know what? My wife really needs my attention right now. Or my dog. Or, you know what? I'm really stressed and I just need to go for a walk in the woods. And so all that stuff starts to fade away, and it's a really beautiful process. But it takes practice, and it takes time. It takes patience.
You know what it's helped me to do is this really simple thing. Someone will say something to me instead of just going blah 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 blah. Because I don't watch some things or consume some stuff, I'll stop and say, "Wait a minute. I'm not understanding exactly what you mean." Or someone will say something to me, and I'll say, or I'll reflect back to them and say, I don't think I'm understanding fully the concepts you're trying to put forth to me. So let's try this again. Can you explain it in a different way? And they may be asking me a simple question like, pick up the blue cup. And for some odd reason, I need more information. I understand that you want me to do something, but can we go over that again? Because I'm not picking up what you're laying down.
And it's hard for people, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's really. I would not have done that before, because now I spend a lot of time in just consciousness. For instance, like I said, I do about 800 miles a week back and forth, visiting all these people and doing trainings. And now my wife was asking me, she was like, you drive differently. I'm like, yes, that's because I drive for the person in back of me and in front of me. Mm-hmm. She was like, huh? I was like, yeah, I'm driving for, I'm the space between. I'm controlling the space between. She was like,
oh, that's so amazing. I love that perspective.
She was like, huh? I was like, so the person in front of me, they could brake, but I have to be able to brake for them. So brake for the person in back of me so that they don't run up on both of us. She was like, you just think too much. I was like,
no, you're aware, right? I think it's beautiful.
I mean, literally, that's how I drive. I drive for the space. I am the space between. And some people get upset because I'm like,
well, and that's interesting. So if you think of cars as thoughts, right? You're not focused, like we focus on the thought, like all these thoughts coming in, but focus on the space in between, and you'll begin to recognize that there's more space between the thoughts than there are thoughts, even though there's 50,000 of them in a day. But that space begins to open up, and it's like this secret doorway into consciousness, like you just said, right?
You're going to use that in your next class, aren't you?
I know. I was talking about timelessness this morning, and I repeated it in a Facebook Live that I did earlier today. And I'm like, how can I bring timelessness into my talk with you today? We didn't really talk about that, but that's okay, because this has been an awesome conversation.
Yeah, and I might have to break this into two pieces because we're going like way long, but that's all right. So we're, like I said, you're going to give me all the links, but really quickly off the top of your head, where can people find you?
On my website, coachaprilria.com. And there's a little button, a purple button up in the top. It'll be the right-hand corner. And it's a free call. It's a discovery call, a strategy call about how you can bring meditation in your life and make it a part of your lifestyle. And we can just start there. That's
Coach April, like coach, like basketball coach. And then like the month, April. And then Ria, RIA, Coach April Ria.
.com.
.com.
I know, I always do that when I watch sports. I'm like, .com.
So when are you going to start doing, there's one thing I noticed you did not have.
What don't I have? Tell me.
YouTube.
Yeah, I know. I have so many videos that I got right now. I got to put them all up there.
What's the problem? What's the holdup?
Oh, yeah, I don't know. It's just,
you got a nice
millennial. We talked about this. I'm not a millennial.
That's all right. I am not either. But you got a face for the camera. You know, hey, use that.
Thanks. I appreciate that.
I mean,
it's on my list. It's on my list.
Do you have any teenagers?
I do. I have two. One's graduating this year. Well, in June next year.
How old is the one that's not graduating?
She's 14.
There you go. Perfect video editor. Give her the task.
I know. I should do that.
Yes.
Yeah, I should do that. Okay.
Is she on TikTok?
I think so. She mentioned it yesterday.
If she's on
I don't even know.
If she's on TikTok, she'll have your videos looking fabulous.
Okay.
Trust me. You're like, Emmett told me first, honey, are you on TikTok? She's going to be like, whatever. I mean, like, let me check it out. And then you're going to
be like, no.
Yeah, probably. And then you're like, look, I need you to help me with these videos. And she'll be like, oh, my mom wants one. Trust me.
Yeah. I love that idea. That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. You know, we're going to get out of here soon, but I asked my youngest daughter something because she used to have these animal friends that she would see. So I asked her last week, I was like, do you still see your, because she draws excellently. I don't know if that's a word. Anyway, I asked her if she still sees her animal friends. She says, no, I don't see them anymore. I was crushed. Because it was like 2 years ago that she told me about them. And we were discussing them. Because she said there was a tiger and there was something else that talked to her. And I was like, God, man.
So when children do that, it's like an aspect of those animals that they relate to. And so they're reflecting themselves. So that whichever animal. So if you're curious to, like, you know, you can maybe think about the characteristics of a tiger and like recognize how she's like a little bit of a tigress, you know what I mean? And
she is.
Qualities.
She's a beast. She just, but she's an artist that I always say that I wish I could be like you when I grow up, because her talent is just so spectacular.
That's awesome.
She's bringing that her mental spiritual universe into the written is just amazing. But anyway, I want to thank you for being on the Billionaire Lifestyle Podcast.
Thank you. I've had a great time. This is really fun. You're fun to be with. So
thank you,
Emmett.
Ladies and gentlemen, guess what today is? Today is the first day of the rest of your life. This is the moment. Guess what? Already the past has hit you, so you're only in the now. You know, the Billionaire Lifestyle is about living. It is not about money. It's not about possessions, because you are a spiritual being living in a bag of mostly water, which is a body. It is mostly water. But, you know, that's what we are. Hue, H-U-E, people of a color under a sun. In the image of man that someone gave us that title for. And we're beings. Human beings. Issues are with the being part. Sometimes we get a little stressed out, tied up, cranky. And if you feel like you're getting at the end of your rope in that being part, do me a favor, tie a knot at the end of that rope. You got a little bit left, just tie a knot. I want you to just hang out there. So tie a knot, keep hanging, rest. And as Lady April Ria said, breathe. Then, after you've gotten your composure, pull yourself up and start all over again. Till next time, love you all. Peace.
Peace.
Remember, ladies and gentlemen, if you've made it this far, you can always go to emmettmuckles.com, and you can also go to coachaprilria.com. Also, visit me on Facebook, or find me on Facebook, Instagram. You can find me everywhere there's a platform. I've even ventured into TikTok. So let me know where you are. Let me know what you think. Spend some time with me. And remember, keep hanging.